What's up, brother? You ready for this?
I'm ready, man. Are you?
I'm ready for this. Yeah, so I'm here with my brother, Omar.
Let's go, boy.
What's up, my bro?
What's up? What's up?
Yeah, bro. So as you know, this is the first interview to my podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And you were the person that I was dedicated to being, the first person that I interview.
It's an honor.
You know, for the people that don't know our story,
Yeah.
we met back, in 2017?
2017, bro.
Yeah, bro, at a gym, and we were just working out partners. I remember
I was a lot bigger back then, bro.
I remember, yeah.
Physically.
I remember walking in, and I was like, who the hell is this loud-ass dude?
And that's how we get to know.
It was the beginning of my journey,
Yeah.
my fitness journey, and I was, I was intimidated first.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I didn't know what I was doing. I
Yeah.
was walking into a space where I thought everybody knew what they were doing, and
Yeah.
I was the one that didn't know anything. But you hearing your voice, and obviously it caught my attention. I'm like, who is this guy? Loud ass doing the gym. But your energy, I gravitated to it. But yeah, bro, not to you. We'll get back into that. But yeah. It's just I gravitated towards your energy, and we, and it was from there on. It was just,
Yeah.
it was just, it was a good vibe.
I think back then, man, I was really, I think I was a different individual, obviously, but at the same time, dude, I was like, gosh, man, I was so stuck on, actually, I was a little lost, but I was just so stuck on just being I needed to be the center of attention for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And I've always been that way growing up, man. It's just loud, obnoxious. But my energy at that point, man, and it's till this day one of those things that people just kind of pull to, and I attribute it to a lot of things, and I'm sure you're going to ask me a lot of different questions as to where that came from. But I think there's a lot of friends that we made in that gym, dude.
Yeah, it was.
And we're still friends to this day, bro.
It's a community for sure.
Yeah, and then so like watching us. It's funny how fitness has a way of doing that for people, where you can take two random strangers, put them in a room, and you just automatically connect. Through suffering, right? Doing some hard shit, doing some difficult shit, doing a million burpees and a million push-ups and a million squats and all these other things. But it's super fun to be able to say in my lifetime that I've made lifelong connections simply by sharing fitness, dude.
The bonding through adversity.
Yeah. That's it.
That's
it, bro. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And we'll get back to that, But just to go back to the beginning, tell me a little bit about yourself, who you are.
I am I'm a husband, a father, a grandfather, and a coach who likes to compete. That is at my core value who I am in a short summary.
Yeah.
I think I did a race yesterday with my wife, and my wife Suzette does not like me to coach her, and she doesn't like the competitive aspect of me. And I said, she asked me, she goes, that was so much fun. And it was for her, right? Kinda, right? But I was like, I was miserable. I told her, she goes, what you think? I go, it sucked. And she goes, why? It's just because I had to turn off the two loudest parts of me and lean on the fifth part of me, right? Which was like, just have fun, right? And that's hard. It's hard for me because I think I've always been a coach. I've always been a competitor.
You're a natural leader.
Yeah, and that's it. And so how do I turn that off? It's like the loudest part of me, other than my voice.
A loud voice, for sure.
But it's that's who I am at his base, as his base fundamental piece, right? And there's always something that I lean on, and when my kids were little, I always said I was a husband first and then a father, because I knew in the long run my kids were going to leave me. But now I'm a grandpa, so,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, yeah, and we're gonna get to all that.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning. Where you grew up, childhood, parents,
Oh, wow.
home. What was it like?
Growing up, man, I was a, what's the word? We have similar stories, you and I.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
I think that's why we were connected. I think when you put people in the room, I always say, dysfunction recognizes dysfunction, right? And so
Yeah.
you walk into a room, it's like I can see the dope fiend.
Yeah,
I can see the dysfunctional fool. I can see
you recognize
Yeah.
when you're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah. And so growing up, I was born into poverty, man. I was born, I died. I always say I was meant for a life of adversity so that I can share a life of love. And so the reason being is because a lot of people don't know this, but I died at birth. I had all kinds of issues, from learning disabilities to ear problems and audio problems and speaking impediments. I stuttered for many, many, many years. There's so much that I grew up with that, I was labeled, people thought I was mentally retarded in school. They had to send me to a special class and test my IQ to figure out if I was not mentally retarded. I don't even know if is that even PC anymore, but that was my childhood growing up. It was born into a life of adversity.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't change it for the world. I think it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
But growing up as a child, we were born in LA, and my mom, I have one older sister. Her name is Josette. She's half and half. She's half black, half Mexican, and me and her were like this. And the reason why we were like this, because she used to watch over me like crazy, man. Growing up, she was like, cause, my dad was not good. He was a heroin addict and abusive towards my mom, and that was the environment we grew up in. And kudos to my sister, which yesterday was her birthday, but yet kudos to my sister. Yeah, kudos to my sister, because I don't remember any of that shit, dude. I don't remember. They told me afterwards. She said, my dad used to beat my mom. My dad used to beat my sister. My dad was very, into drugs. But I don't remember any of that stuff. In my eyes, I grew up just poor.
Yeah.
And so I'm one of 8 children, and I'm the second oldest, and I'm the first oldest male. In the Hispanic family, and what that means, right?
Yeah.
You got to be the guy.
You had to be the leader.
You had to be the leader, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. I was early, growing up, I'll get to that, but growing up, my sister always just protected me. And for me, she was the leader in the home. Mm-hmm. And, you start moving up, and we were in LA, and my mom had to get away from all of that. And my mom did probably one of the most bravest things that changed the course of our entire family's life. And so once you're in LA, and it's funny because I see all my family members now that are still in LA, they're living the same life, bro.
Yeah.
That same,
Same cycle.
Same cycle, right? Over and over again. And some of them have broken it and then went back.
It becomes generational.
Yeah, it is generational.
Yeah.
My mom's mom was messed up. She died on a park bench with schizophrenia, right? And my dad's dad died early on, and so it's just cycle after cycle after cycle. And my mom did the one bravest thing. So there was 4 of us. Let me see. My sister Josette, me, Chito. There was 4 of us. There was 5 of us. Perdón. There was 5 of us, and my mom put us in a station wagon. Just got her welfare check. Fills the tank up, packs us all in the station wagon, and drives us down to San Diego.
Yeah.
And so
Saved your guys' lives.
didn't know anybody down here other than a tia who really couldn't take us in. But this tia, her name is Vivian, she used to, she was actually my mom's uncle's, I guess my uncle's ex-wife.
Yeah.
So she was like, and my uncle would disappear, dude. So she had no, other than we just knowing her as our tia, she wasn't a biological tia. But she's like, come down, get away from all that shit. And so we did. Well, long story short, we ended up homeless. Like, we didn't have a dime to piss, a pot to piss in or a dime in our pockets. Well, through this tia, we got connected to a church. A church took us in. And I remember thinking, dude, when I was growing up, that, dude, this church took us in. They clothed us. Hell, they put us in private schools, dude. And I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't even think, right? And I remember, and the one memory that I remember that I knew I was in a different place was because they served vegetables at dinner. I shit you not, dude. I was like, I remember.
Oh, we're good now.
Yeah. Like, we got vegetables. Oh,
What?
shit.
We're living now.
We ain't in on chicken quarters right now. What's up?
We ain't on Top Ramen no more?
On Top Ramen. Like, what the hell, right? And so, but yeah. And so we were like on vegetables. I remember because it was beets. And there were fresh beets grown in their own garden, right? And I was like, what the fuck is this red, nasty, tastes like dirt and shit? Ironically, I love beets now, but I did as a kid, I was like, this is gross shit, right? But I remember thinking, man, that this wasn't normal. Like in that home, they're praying at the table, they're taking me to church, they're taking me to I'm in a private school with all these other people that are paying God knows amount. In these high-end schools, man, it was my first exposure outside of the neighborhood, dude, that I was like, there's a whole other world.
It's a whole other world.
Now, dude, I'm in third grade. I was in first, second grade, right? I remember thinking as a kid, and I had a really cute first grade teacher, bro. She had long hair. I remember thinking, I was like, I got a crush on her, bro. I was just a little punk kid, right? But that was my first exposure growing up in that environment. It was like, oh, there's a whole other world. And, I didn't think about anything other than just, I'm a kid, right? But, you go back to what you know, and throwing rocks, to breaking windows, doing all the things you did in the hood, right? And then fast forward, I just kept going, right? We ended up getting help, Section 8, and my mom still got aid. My whole life, we were on welfare as a kid, I remember.
Yeah.
But my mom told me this one thing that till this day is still advice that I give to a lot of my people that are like, I want to do this and I want to do that. And because my mom used to tell me growing up, she said, it doesn't matter where you go, Mijo, you will always be. Mm-hmm. You will always be there. It doesn't matter. You can uproot and leave, and you will always be there. It doesn't matter where you are. And I was like, and I never got it. And I know why she gave me the advice now. And she said, because when we moved down here, we had all the opportunity in the world. Church took us in. My mom got off of welfare for like a hot minute, but didn't know how to be a productive member of society.
Yeah.
It was too scary for her. And so she leaves her whole world in LA, moves us all down here, gets taken to a church. We have our own house. We're being helped and supported by the people around us, being loved on, not exposed to violence, drugs, alcohol, none of that shit. And what happens? The cycle repeated itself.
Yep.
She went back, right? She went back to using and doing all that stuff and partying and drinking and all the things. And that's where she got it from.
Yeah.
It was like, it doesn't matter where you go, you will be. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, because it's like my understanding to that, right? Is like wherever you go, you will be, right? it's you're gonna be the same person no matter where you go,
And
right?
you carry the same cycles, you carry the
Yeah,
same scars.
if you don't change,
Yeah.
I mean, you can change your environment, you know,
Yeah.
but if you don't change as a person, it's gonna continue. The cycle will continue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I had instances like that in my life where like I moved to Carlsbad. I moved away from the hood and
Yeah.
thinking that was gonna change my way of thinking and my outlook in life. But in reality, it didn't.
It didn't.
I still struggled, you know.
You still
I
struggle
still wanted to be in the hood.
Yeah, you still want to be who you are, right?
I still wanted to be who I was,
Yeah.
who I was then, right?
Yeah.
I'm not that person anymore, but
It's the change has to come from within, not
It has
from a
to come within, yeah.
geographical location.
Yeah.
Not a new car, not a new girl, not a new anything, and it'll be you.
yeah.
Right?
So
And so, growing up, that's how it was, and you know, we got through all of that. I mean, kinda, right? Growing up, we that little short spurt. I want to say it was like 4 years of my childhood, maybe three.
and these are what? These are the early years, right?
Early years. I'm like,
Okay. Because I want to get to
yeah,
your
I'm
teen
like
years.
6, 7, 8.
Okay.
Right, and then 8 years old, my mom got into her addiction again, and that's what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
She went back on aid. We started having parties in the house again.
Yeah.
Same old shit, right?
The same old exposure.
Drugs, the whole thing, right? And I remember we were living in a house in National City, and we shared houses. There was a front house and a back house. We lived in the back house. The front house was people from our church that owned the back house, so they gave us a really good deal. And my mom left there because she started kind of dating some guy, and you know, she had 5 kids. Dude, who the fuck's gonna want to date a mom with 5 kids?
Yeah.
And this guy named his name is, he goes by Chaparro, right? But his name is Jesus Rocha. He's my stepdad, and he ended up getting with my mom, and he was a big drinker and a big partier. And so my mom lost the identity that she thought she wanted to be, and I think I think she truly was, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And went back to her old cycle and her old behavior. Started drinking, partying, and we moved, I don't know, maybe 5 miles down the road to this house that was called, you know, its nickname was Purple Cow. And it was in National City, right across, it's like across the street from Showtown. So Showtown, National City, down the way, Logan Heights.
Yeah.
And so this is like in the 80s, bro.
Oh yeah. This is.
Height of crack.
Yeah,
Epidemic,
this is a
right?
crack
Meth
epidemic.
is new on the scene, bro.
This
Heroin
is a rough time to be growing up.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And
dude.
and the hood.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is where the fight on drugs
Yeah.
that Reagan. This is like
Yeah,
what it was, right? Yeah, the cartel war was in full effect. I mean, it was wild, man.
Yeah.
And anyways, I'm going down there, and we lived in the Purple Cow, and everybody knew that place because it was the only drive-through like liquor store that you'd have in the neighborhood, and there was a fat ass fucking Purple Cow on top of the building, and my house was directly behind it. It was like up on a hill, and that's where I grew up. My mom got into the height of her addiction at that point, and I'm 8, 9 years old. But this time, dude, my mom never wanted to let me see my dad. But you gotta remember, even though, like I said early on, my sister protected me from a lot of things, dude, my older sister, and I love her to this day. She, in my eyes, when my mom started acting up again, I started looking for my dad, and I wanted my dad, and I was like, hey man, I want my dad because he's like my hero. I was craving male role models. Like I needed a male.
You wanted
role
that male
model.
bond.
Yeah, not just a bond. I learned from other people, like
Yeah.
looking at other people. And so I was looking for that mirror. I was looking for that image. I was looking for that person to guide me. And so I always hung around older people, like my whole life. And as a kid, I was like, what I like what he does, and I'm gonna go do what he does.
Very
Right?
similar to me. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And so it's like, oh, he keeps his shoes clean. Oh, he creases his pants. I'm gonna go crease my pants. You know what I'm saying? He does. He wears Ben Davis. I'm gonna wear Ben Davis. Right. And so that was the vibe. Right. And so I fast forward. I'm in high school. I get into junior high, and school wasn't for me, man. That's when I was kind of labeled retarded and stuff like that, man. I was just like, you know what? School's not for me. I was ADHD. I didn't know this at the time. They thought I was mentally retarded, all this other thing. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this. Seventh grade, dude, I probably went to school maybe a month out of the year. Maybe, bro. And my cousin came down. I was like 10, 11. And me and my cousin were like two peas in a pod, bro. My mom ended up adopting him, and he came to live with us. And my mom's already partying, doing her thing. She started having drugs in the house. She had a shooting gallery where, heroin addicts go down in my basement.
Yeah.
We were smuggling people across the border. I'm like 12, 10, 11. And so that was just the life. I was running around. I wanted Cortez, Nike Cortez, because they were out. I was like doing the thing. Me and my cousin are hanging around, buying BB guns, doing super shit, shooting out windows, and just running around, right? And my cousin comes home with a big ass, like a
Those
grocery
adolescent
bag.
years.
Yeah, he comes back with a grocery bag, and he's like, well, "Hey, primo, come here. I got something for us." And I was like, "What's up?" And he had like a whole pound of weed. And I was
That
like,
Mexican weed?
oh, yeah,
The
bro.
brick?
The brick, right? And I was like, oh, shit. I mean, I'd seen drugs before, but not a pound of weed before. And I was like, shit. He goes, we're gonna make some money. And I was like, all right. And we started smoking weed, man. I'm like 10, 11. And I'm looking for my role model. At the time, my dad was like still talking to me. I would call him and he wouldn't answer, or I'd be like, "Hey, Dad, are you gonna come pick me up?" And I remember a conversation I had with him when I was 11, and he's like, right before my 12th birthday, and I said, "Hey, Dad, it's my birthday next month. Can you pick me up?" He goes, "Yeah, amigo, I'm gonna take you up. We're gonna go to Disneyland." I said, "All right, fuck yeah, let's go." Never shows. And my mom gets a phone call. And I'm playing in my backyard, fucking around, doing whatever. And it's me and my primo, my brothers. My mom comes out, and she's like, all I heard was a scream from the top of her lungs. I never heard my mom scream like that in her life. And she walks out to the backyard. Now, I gotta paint this picture because this house is like white, old school dairy farmhouse, 3 stories with the laundry chute down the middle. It's like, if you can picture like a little white picket fence back in the day, but now it's in the hood type shit, that's what it was. And we were in the back, and she comes out, and she looks at me, and I look at her, and she's fucking tired. She's full of tears. And I looked at her, and she goes, "He's dead, isn't he?" And she just broke down.
That was your response.
She didn't say shit to me.
Like you knew.
I knew.
That kind of cry.
Yeah, and I was like, he's dead. And she's like, how the fuck did you know? And I said, I don't know, I just felt it. And sure as shit,
God, man, that chokes me up, bro.
yeah, and so my one role model that I was striving for and looking for was gone. And I didn't know this then, that my dad was like the biggest piece of shit there was in the world.
Yeah.
Right? And the best thing that he could have done was to be a sperm donor to make me who I am, right? But that was it. And so you asked me earlier, you're like, what fatherhood? And I said, what's that?
Yeah.
I said, I didn't have one. Mm-hmm. And so that's what it was. And then I was so mad. From that point on, and I had just lost my grandma a year before that, my great-grandma the year before that. And I remember my dad dying. It was like the gavel, just, and I said, fuck. And I remember having the conversation with my God, and I was like, yo, there is no God. If you fucking existed, you would not have given me this fucking life. Fuck you. I
Yeah.
was so mad. I was an angry kid, bro. I go, look at my fucking house that I live in. My mom's all cracked out and drunk. I got a stepdad that's a piece of shit that beats the shit out of my mom. I got fucking people shooting. My mom uses me to smuggle people across the border.
It was like a reality check.
Yeah,
Like
dude, I was
you
just
started
so,
seeing everything. Like,
I was
whoa.
just mad, bro. I was like, this is my life. I remember thinking, and even growing up, bro, I have a lot of things. Common sense is like sometimes one of the things that I have. But I remember as a kid, I was so mad. I was so full of rage, man. I was like, I just want to get high, bro.
Yeah.
And so I did. I mean, I started going out, doing the things. I'm 11, 12, bro, in the streets, doing the things, smoking weed, doing, partying. Bro, I started working, I was 9. And I would do just work just so that I can get money because my mom brought me Pro Wings, bro. If you know what Pro Wings are, you're gonna look at Payless, bro. You don't know what Payless is, then you know what I'm saying? You're
Bro,
like, hey, you know what I'm saying? I got the shoes with the Velcro on it.
yeah,
You know
the
what I
early
mean?
years were like that, bro.
Yeah. And so I used to get
Yeah.
teased at school, like, what the fuck are those? I'm like, fuck you. I used to get fights, all that shit, right? Because of what I was wearing. So I was determined not to do that shit. I was determined to make something different. So I would go out and mow people's lawns. I would go to the liquor stores. Hey, can I do anything and stock your coolers? Yeah. Come on, I'd make $10 a day, bro.
Yeah.
$20 a week. And then so I started I figured out that I could make money. And then so I was making money. I was doing side hustles with my primo, selling weed. We were all getting fucked up. And I remember it was like a very proud moment. I asked my mom for Cortez when I was 10 before my birthday. And she's like, I can't afford that shit. And I was like, she goes, you want Cortez? Go get him. I said, all right. And I did. I remember, man, my very first sport at Cortez by myself. And she goes, where the fuck did you get those from? She goes,
So fly.
you told me to go get them. Didn't you? And I said, I did. And so I went in, I got my Cortez, came back. Anyways, all that stuff happened. That's how I came up from like anything's possible from that moment on. Because between hustling and doing, I had no other examples, bro.
That's all you knew.
That's all I knew, bro.
That's what your
This is
environment was handing you.
Exactly. This is what I was
You know?
taught. This is what I had to mirror, right? And so, fast forward to 12, I was partying. I was at a party. Everybody was fucking doing lines, and after my dad died, bro. I was so afraid to do any white powders, any needles, none of that shit. And so I smoked weed a lot and drank. I would still, from these liquor stores that I was working at, I would steal cases of 40s and put them in the trash and then go take my friends and go get fucked up. And this is how it was. And I was at a party with my primo, and they were we were all smoking weed. Everybody's doing lines. We had invited some other people from Logan, bro. And back then, Logan was all hooked up with the cartels and shit. And so they were like, yeah, hey, you want some? I'm like, oh yeah. And they gave me a joint, bro, and I smoked it.
That's what the PCP?
Yeah,
PCP
bro.
was big.
Bro.
At that time?
That's
where everybody would go.
Yeah, but it was
They would go to Logan to get it.
laced with all kinds of other shit, bro. I OD'd
Yeah.
at 12. And I woke up, I came out of it, and I was in a pool of ice water in the tub. Somebody was blowing air into my chest or my mouth, and they're like, motherfuckers, how many take me to the hospital and shit? And I'm like, fuck, that was fun.
And that was the beginning of
That was my addiction, bro.
This is where like the course of your life was changing.
Yes.
In a negative way, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then so I start going, and I fast forward, and I'm like 13, 14. By the time I was 13, 14 years old, bro, I was wearing gold watches, bro. I was wearing fucking silk shirts and all this shit, dude, because I had figured out a way to make money. And I thought I was the shit, you know? And I'm like, I'm going to show them. That's what I always thought, I'm going to show them. And got through all that, met the future mother of my children, and she gave me solace in my life of chaos, and it was so unhealthy, the relationship between my ex-wife and me. I'm 13. We started having sex. I started having sex when I was 12, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, dude, I thought I was the shit. I was making money. I'm wearing nice clothes. I got gold watches. I'm fucking having sex with girls. That's the image.
But yeah, people don't realize, like, doing, because I mean, very similar, you know?
Yeah.
We have a very similar story.
Yeah.
I was exposed to stuff like that at a very young age. And, you know, people don't realize the negative effect it does to you, negative effect it has on a developing mind, developing
100%.
brain.
Yeah.
Like, it corrupts you.
100%.
Being exposed to sex, to drugs, a violent environment,
Yeah.
you know, and not just in the home, but in your neighborhood, like, it corrupts the mind so much. Even though like you have the best intentions in your heart, you see the world in a different way. That place, that environment, that kind of exposure will corrupt you.
Oh,
And
100.
it changes you 100%.
100.
Even, you know, like even me as a child, right? Like I wanted to be everything else other than a gang member.
Yeah,
But
right?
everybody around me were
Was a
gang
gang
members.
member,
You know,
yes.
brothers, you know,
Yeah,
sisters,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
walking out my front door, you know,
Yeah.
the exposure was there.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like you kind of just fall into it.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, go ahead,
and
go
so,
back.
Yeah, that's what it is, and so you keep going, right? And that's the environment that I grew up in, and then growing up, I remember in my own addiction, my mom first caught me when I started smoking weed. And this is I get asked this a lot about this story. They're like, "How your mom never said anything?" I said, "Let me tell you what happened with me and my mom. My mom's in the height of her addiction. I got home and she didn't know I was smoking weed. I was smoking weed since I was like 9, 10, bro, until like, and then she found out when I was 12. And I came home, I was high as fuck, bro. Bloodshot, I look like a little chino and shit. I'm walking in, I'm fucked up. And she's in her house, she's in the dining room with all of her friends getting fucking drunk. And she looked at me and she goes, "You're high." And I said, "No, I'm not." And she said, "Yeah, you are." And I'm thinking I'm gonna get my ass beat, bro. And I'm like, fuck. So? She goes, "Roll a joint, let's go." And that's the environment,
Yeah.
right? And so I got high with my mom at 12, bro. Mm-hmm. Lost my virginity when I was fucking 11, 12, bro.
Yeah.
And these are things that that happened. I'm not telling the story to make it seem like it was this way. Those are things that I had to unravel later on in my life.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's not to glorify
heal
it,
from.
yeah.
Yes, not to glorify it, that I had to heal from,
Yeah.
right? And uncover and unpack and realize this is the reality. And I had to face. I had to face them for me to heal, right? And so back then, I was like 13. I meet the girl of my dreams, bro, in my eyes, right? And we started, and she's coming from a very strict, dysfunctional home. And I'm coming from a very dysfunctional home that's not strict, bro.
Dysfunctional home.
Yeah, strict, dysfunctional home to a strict, no, to a not strict.
I don't know why, but I knew exactly what you meant.
Yeah. Like, you can't do this, you can't do that, right? And so it was like, this typical, like, traditional Mexican home that's dysfunctional, bro. And so she had been, a victim of molest and rape.
Yeah.
And so she was screaming for help. Mm-hmm. And I'm obviously screaming for fucking help. And we found each other and we were like, let's help each other. Talk about codependency.
Yeah,
right?
that's the worst.
Like a recipe for codependency, right?
A recipe for disaster.
Yeah. And so we fucking got into it, man. We were like in it, having sex.
They become addicted to each other.
Oh, 100% addicted.
Addicted to each
right?
other.
She became my world and I became her world. And
yeah, that's toxic.
That's very toxic. And then 13, by the time I was 13, I had gotten kicked out of my middle school. And my mom put me in another school. They called CPS on her because she said, "What the fuck's wrong with this kid?" And they finally put me in another school. My mom says, "If you don't fucking keep going to school and figuring this shit out, they're gonna take you away from me and they're gonna put you in the fucking state, in the system." And so that scared the shit out of me, dude, to go to school. I was shitty at it, but I went to school.
Yeah.
Right? And at the time, my girlfriend, future mother of my kid, was encouraging me. Again, toxic. She's my world, I'm her world. And we went and there was a Valentine's Day dance. And again, I was making money, so I was like, "Hey, we're gonna get a limo. Let's get all the friends get a limo. They're like, who's gonna pay for it? I got you. Me being me. And I was like, and so I had done all 12 freaking people. We went in a limo, went cruising, did the stupid shit, Coronado Bridge, beach, da 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 da. And I'm getting everybody drunk and high in the limo. And everybody gets out, goes to the beach. I have sex with her in the limo. And I'm not saying that to glorify, but that was when my daughter was conceived.
Yeah.
Right? And
very young.
14 years old, bro. 15 years old.
Yeah.
I was just gonna be 15. And so she got pregnant. I'm 15. Like, what the fuck do I do?
You're a child yourself.
I'm a fucking baby, bro.
I was a teen parent, so I know that.
15 years old, she's pregnant. What do we do? I'm like, I'm making money. I'll figure it out. She has to go tell her parents. She tells her parents. I tell my parents. I'm like, hey, I got this girl pregnant. My mom's like, what? You pendejo. And she's just giving me shit. The fuck you gonna do? I said, I don't know. I'm gonna raise the fucking baby. I guess I'll show you. Right? And she gets kicked out. Her parents look at her and said, hey, you got her pregnant? And I stood in front of her dad and her mom. Yep. She said, you own her now. It's yours. You got to marry her. And I'm working at a liquor store, 2 different liquor stores at the time. And one of the guys that used to come to the liquor store that I worked at was like a drunk priest. He used to get night trained. No shit. And he would see me, and he was like, you're a hard worker. And I said, yeah, I got to. He goes, how old are you? I said, I'm 15. He goes, why are you working so hard? I said, because I got a kid on the way. And he was like, hey, by the way, do you marry people? And he goes, yeah. He goes, why, you want me to marry you? And I said, I have to. Because my girlfriend's parents said I have to. So he was like, all right. So he had a chapel on, right on National City Boulevard where all the hookers used to stand. And I looked at my girl. I fucking got, I don't know, $100 ring or some shit like that. I told my mom. My mom made a little cake. We fucking went to a chapel. Her parents were there. My mom was there. We got married at 15 years old, dude. I got emancipated at 15, got married when I was 15, and moved out of my house when I was 15. And I'm like, and I had like 3 jobs, dude. I was working at Carl's Jr., 2 liquor stores. I was hustling.
Not to cut you off, but like it's crazy, bro. Like it reminds me, like I've mentioned this to people in a conversation. I go, being exposed to that lifestyle very young.
Yeah.
You grow up very fast.
I grew up when I was 9, bro.
Yeah.
I grew up at 8.
Yeah,
bro.
I was doing the same things at 9 years old, smoking weed.
Yeah, you grow up.
I never wasn't really much of a drinker, but I was smoking weed, hanging out at 9 years old. I was exposed very, very young.
Yeah.
By the time I was 13 years old, I thought I was grown as hell. you know?
Yeah.
I was a child.
Yeah.
I was
you a baby,
baby
bro.
face too.
Yeah. You wearing diapers.
Bro.
And you think about it. Now that I know what I know now from a neurological perspective, I was talking to Pat a little while ago, man. I was like, man, there's so much that I know, but reality is you're not done developing until you're 25.
Yeah.
Mentally.
Yeah.
And here I am having kids.
And men, we mature a lot later in life.
Yeah. We some dumb fools, bro.
They say 45. They say we don't fully mature till we're 45.
Yeah.
I'm not fully mature.
I just hit puberty. I'm 47, bro.
I'm about to be 37, bro.
Yeah. So,
but it's true.
right.
I mean, like, so I'm just thinking, like, dude, you're 15 years old, man.
Yeah.
15 years old. You have a baby on the way, or you already had the baby.
No, baby's on the way.
Baby's on the way. You're married.
Yeah.
You're working 2 jobs. Three jobs.
Yeah.
And you're balancing all that.
I don't know if it was balance.
Yeah. You know what I mean, though, right? You're trying to get a grip of all this.
Yeah.
In a messed up environment as it is,
But here,
like your life is not your life's already in shambles, right? And then you're
what I know now and I didn't know then. Drugs can be anything.
Oh yeah, for
Remember
sure.
this.
Yeah,
And
drugs is.
it could be a woman, it could be clothes, it could be shopping, it could be food, it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be fitness, it could be fucking
Attention.
podcasting,
Yeah.
right? It could be anything. Whatever grabs your attention that you gravitate to all the time from an unbalanced perspective, it could be a drug. And that relationship with my ex-wife was my drug.
Yeah.
And I clearly remember thinking that after I got out of rehab, how I needed that drug. And let me explain. If I didn't have that drug, my ex-wife, in that relationship, I would have gravitated to the life that I was already heading down to, the Cortez, the Crease
Oh yeah,
Dickies,
for sure.
all this other stuff, right? And I would have continued down the path that my primo, that came to live with me from, my brother, he's not my brother, would have ended up at, right? And I'll get into that where he ended up here in a little bit, but that moment was very pivotal. And you know how I had the conversation with God about him giving me the life that I had? I fucking thank him every day for that life now, because that moment literally created a fork in my road. And I went this way because I remember thinking, I got a kid on the way. And you know, Muhammad Ali said, I'm going to show you how great I am. That's how I thought. I'm going to show them how great I can be, how much of a father I can be, how much of a husband I can be, how a family should be raised. I was so fucking determined and angry, and it came from a wrong place, bro. And I remember telling everybody, like, I told my mom, you're a piece of shit. I'm going to fucking show you how to do this shit. At 15, bro.